We're going to switch gears. Vivian already gave Maddie a great introduction. So thank you, Vivian. But furthermore, we're now going to switch gears and start getting into Be Ambitious with Miss Maddie Janssen. And thank you, Vivian. Vivian, if you want to stay for Maddie again, you're more than welcome to. Sorry, Maddie, I was trying to unmute you and then I muted you one more time. There we go.
Am I good now? Okay, cool. Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me, Casey?
Yes, I can.
Okay, just checking. Everyone's on mute, but I think I saw some heads nodding in like the little squares up here on top.
Perfect. Well, welcome. Okay. Thank you so much for being here today. I have not, all that they know is that you are Maddie Janssen. I haven't really given them your background. Okay.
And these are contestants from all across the state, right?
All across the state. Yes.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. Well, then I'll give you a little introduction on myself as well. And if I have any issues with connection, just, let me know. I'll pause for a moment or something like that. Because Wi-Fi. Anyway, so my name's Maddie Janssen and I am a news anchor at our local, sorry, I don't know what I'm looking at here. I'm going to just do that so I can look at everybody's faces instead. Okay, so I'm a news anchor at our local NBC station in Bakersfield, California. It's my hometown, so I have been working at KGET since 2009, so it's been about 12 years now, and I've been anchoring the morning newscast for 10 of those years. When I was in high school, actually, my ambition, since we're talking about ambition, was to be an actress. I went to college with a small drama scholarship to Chapman University down in Orange County. But after a few months of auditioning for shows there on campus and going through our theater classes, I quickly realized that a life of constant auditions and taking up residency in LA really was not for me. So I had to switch majors. I was already at this very expensive school that my mom had agreed to let me go to. So I had to pick a different major, pick it fast and make it count. I kind of randomly chose broadcast journalism and television production. I didn't exactly know that I wanted to be a reporter, but I thought I was coming from theater background and I loved to write. So it seemed like a good fit. And I thought, well, I'll get this degree and then I'll kind of see what I want to do after college. But as soon as I started spending some time in local newsrooms through internships and part-time jobs, I quickly fell in love with local news. I fell in love with the urgency of being in a newsroom, with the feeling of tackling breaking news with your entire team and with bringing that important news to your community, especially community that you loved, which is where anchoring and reporting in the community I grew up in really was a dream come true for me, because I'm able to do that not just for any community, but my family and my friends and my neighbors and the people I grew up with. So that's pretty amazing. So I graduated college in 3 years after switching my majors, and I quickly started looking for an entry-level reporting job. I landed on a reporting job at an NBC station in Billings, Montana, 1,300 miles from home, and making barely more than minimum wage. And I packed up and I moved across country. And it was probably the best thing I've ever done. You learn so much about yourself when you're putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation. So it was really, really worthwhile. Something I never thought I would do, a place I never thought I would go. But those are the times that you learn the most about yourself, I think. After about 2 years of reporting the news and learning the ropes of anchoring and producing and editing, I decided that my next move needed to be home. So I went home for a little vacation and I knocked on the doors at some local news stations. And I got incredibly lucky that they let me in. And I ended up making a connection with the news director at our NBC station in my hometown. That's KGET. 4 months later, a job opened up almost perfectly coinciding with the end of my contract in Billings, Montana. And I moved home to begin my job reporting the news in my hometown of Bakersfield, California. I started reporting Monday through Friday, dayside, and about a year in, I snagged the weekend anchor position. But at this point, I'd been in it for a little over 3 years, but it is a grueling job. And I was starting to grow a little tired of the day in, day out emotional toll physical toll of these long days and reporting these emotionally taxing stories, the hard investigative pieces and the middle of the night calls to get up and cover a triple murder scene were really wearing on me. At this point, I was also getting married and hoping to start a family. So I needed a change and a different schedule. I set my sights on our sunrise newscast, which is our morning newscast that runs from 5 to 7 a.m. And I started to realize as I watched the anchor who was in that position at that point, that morning TV had this perfect mix of hard hitting investigative pieces and interviews with the most important newsmakers in our community. But it also had a fun mix of news you can use, news that was important to families, but was also kind of fun to watch as well. And it was a chance to showcase the best parts of your community, the good things as well, the happy features. And also to showcase a little bit of your personality. So morning news was really calling for me. Even though I was only 24 years old at the time, and I was much younger than the anchor who had that position currently, I decided to go talk to my news director and tell him about my aspirations to take that position when she announced she'd be leaving. I have since been in that job for 10 years, and I'm really grateful that I took the risk of going in, even though I had only been at that job for a year and a half and asking for this prized position. I was incredibly lucky and I feel so blessed. Since then, I've realized my ambition of becoming a mother. And with that, I've tackled a whole new set of challenges, working mom. There have been a lot of highs and lows figuring out exactly what I want from this job and from my life and from my work-life balance with my family along the way. But I can honestly say at this point, I am happier than I've ever been in this industry. I finally found my really good fit. I fought for a long time against embracing my changing ambitions because they've changed so many times since I was in high school and thought I wanted to go to school to be an actress, but my ambitions changed a lot along the way. I was an unmarried reporter and I wanted the top story every single night. I wanted to be the one who was called in the middle of the night to that triple homicide scene. That for a while was my ambition, but then I really started to yearn for that anchor position as well, that position of more authority and to help manage and mentor younger reporters. And then eventually I became a working mom and I had a whole new set of priorities that took up my mind space. And I had to learn to juggle in a different way and be okay with the fact that my ambitions were changing and my priorities were changing. For a long time, I thought that I needed to be the same hard news girl that I started out as and that I was hired to be. And I was afraid to no longer want to be what I used to be and no longer have those same dreams. But the key, I think, in each of these transitions was owning my new ambition, owning the fact that I no longer wanted what I originally started out doing. And it's okay to see those priorities and those ambitions change. And accepting them and owning them is probably the biggest key to success. Because if you're fighting against yourself and your own true ambitions, you're going to have a lot of trouble. You're your own worst enemy in a lot of those cases. And I tell you all of this, my backstory, just to tell you how my ambition shaped my education, to my career, and now my life, and how it is okay to watch your ambitions change over the years. That is not a sign of failure. That's a sign of growth. And giving up on one goal in exchange for another doesn't mean you're losing that ambition. It just means that you found another. So I made up a little worksheet that I thought we could go through together. And I know that you girls are probably good at journaling and you've maybe done vision boards before and putting your dreams out there in a real tangible way. But I think that it's a practice that you can do over and over again because every time you do it, it reinforces it and maybe you think of something new. So I asked Casey to email out this worksheet that I made up. It's just a little one. Definitely something you could use a lot more than one page to fill up, but I thought it would be fun to go through with you and talk about the steps that I like to use in owning my own ambition. So if you have these, you can jot them down. You can pull it up on your computer and take a look at it if you didn't get a chance to print it out. But I thought it was something we could go through together. And if you don't have the worksheet with you right now, you can just jot down some notes on a piece of paper as we go through it. But first of all, before we, oh, sorry about that, Casey.
No, I linked it in the chat. So if anyone didn't get the chance to print it out, it's right there for you.
Okay, awesome. So, first off, ambition is defined as a strong desire to achieve something. As part of this program, I know that each and every one of you ladies is incredibly ambitious because you would not be here if you weren't. You would not be spending your summer doing something like this and reaching outside of your comfort zone and taking on extra work like you all do. So I know that you're incredibly ambitious. And I, in fact, believe anybody and everybody with a dream is ambitious because the only thing that would stop someone from claiming that title of ambitious is just being afraid to own their own dream and their own vision for their life. Everybody has a vision of some sort for their life. So we are all ambitious. And what stops a lot of us is owning that, because what happens if we say we want something and we don't achieve it? I think we're afraid to put things out there for the world to see these are our goals, because what if it doesn't work out? But I can tell you something, as somebody who has a very public job and has had an opportunity to fail publicly a lot of times, other people don't remember your failures nearly as long as you do. You are the one who is going to remember that. Other people, they're moved on. They are the main character in their lives. So you're afraid what it's going to look like if you fail publicly, even, which I have done many times on air. But I'm going to tell you that people move on really quickly. It's you that is holding on to that fear. And other people aren't judging you for it. They're worried about their own failures and their own ambitions, their own goals. So as we all dream, we even look through, even though those dreams and ambitions look different for everybody, we all have ambitions for our life. For some, it's being recognized, it's getting into a certain college or a certain program. For some, it's getting a specific job or promotion, and they're going to change again throughout your lives. So right now, the first step is to own your ambition, because if you don't own it, you can't achieve it. If you just kind of put it out into the world and think in your mind, maybe one day, you're not ever going to get it. So you may have 1 or 10 ambitions for your life right now, but think about it for a second and jot down the thing that's the most imminent, that is your next pressing ambition for your life. I'm going to kind of do this worksheet with you, just as good practice, because I said I think it's always something that we can go back and do. I'll give you a minute to write down yours, and I'm going to write down a few of mine. Okay. I'm sure you already have these at the top of your mind. So I'll go ahead and continue on and go back if you haven't finished writing down all of them so far. But I can see some of you still writing, and I know how that's probably a long list of ambitions that you all have for your lives, which is just so amazing and exciting. So I wrote down, I would like to win an Emmy for a story that I do, a news story. I've been on our Sunrise crew for 10 years now, and we've won several Emmys for our newscast as a whole. And so I've been a part of that as a team effort, but I would like to win one by myself, not as a team. So I put that down there, and I was afraid to own that for a long time. I was afraid to go for awards because I was afraid, what is it going to look like if I'm putting myself out there for them and I'm not winning them? But you know what? Who cares? And if I don't say I want to win one, then I'm never going to try. And if I'm not going to try, I'm not going to win. So it's worth writing it down. And then another one for me, and this is something that I kind of encourage you to do, is pick kind of a fun ambition that is separate from your career or your education. For me, I put down, I want to climb Mount Whitney and Half Dome. And I think having fun ambitions like that are separate from our career and education paths are really important because they remind us that we're not one-dimensional people. And it especially helps when something goes wrong with that path that you've envisioned with yourself, for yourself, because something's going to go wrong one day down the road, few years. Something is going to get in the way in that path that you've envisioned for your life. And it's so important to remember that you are not a one-dimensional person. That career path, that educational path does not define you. You need to see yourself as a well-rounded person. And if you have these other ambitions in your life and hobbies and passions, then it's going to help remind you that you're still a success, even if something doesn't work out in another area of your life. So I like to pick a fun kind of ambition that's just for me. It's not part of my career. It's not for my family, but it's just for me. I want to be able to say, I climbed Mount Whitney and I climbed Half Dome. And so that's my goal in the next year. And I'm going to write that down. So our next part on our worksheet here is have a strategy, because I'm sure you've all heard it said before, hope is not a strategy. I can't just take my dreams and throw them out to the universe and say, God, bring me an Emmy. That's not going to get me very far. I have to be intentional. And I think it's really important to be intentional with setting your strategy and setting deadlines for yourself and setting those way stations along the way. How do I know I'm on the right track? So in order to win an Emmy, I have to report more often. And therefore, I'm going to set a quota for myself. I'm going to set that I have to report 3 news stories a month. And that doesn't seem like very much, but I'm not a full-time reporter anymore. So 3 solid, well-researched, well-written and edited stories is a good goal for me. But think about your goals and how are you going to measure that you are on the right path? Where do you want to be in 6 months? Or maybe you want to set it for a week or a month. Where do you want to be, though, along your way? Can you think right now, pick one of your ambitions and write yourself a little strategy? It doesn't have to go, years down the road, but try and pick a little bit of a strategy that's going to help to get you on your way, at least, to one of your ambitions. So I'm going to write down report 3 stories a month, and then enter at least 2 stories per year. And then for my other just for me ambition, I'm going to begin with a 15-mile hike for my birthday with my sister-in-law. And we've already got that picked out and planned for this weekend. So I'm pretty excited about that one. Because if we can do that, then we can move on to Half Dome, and after Half Dome, Mount Whitney. So go ahead and take just a second and write down your little steps and your way stations and your strategies. Okay, step 3, surround yourself with ambitious people. And this is one of the best ways to do that, programs like this. And we've had a little trouble doing this over the pandemic because we haven't been able to be in the groups in person. And I do think that those in-person groups feeding off of each other's energy is so important, but social media gives us a whole new way to connect with people who share similar ambitions or similar dreams or have a job that we want one day. It's really incredible how it has made our world so much more accessible. So there's a, it's a double-edged sword. There are good things about the pandemic and there are bad things that they've shown us. So I think we need to take the good, leave the bad, and don't forget, surround yourself with ambitious people. You can, they say you are who you surround yourself with, and to look at the top 5 people you spend the most time with, because those are the people who are going to define so much about who you are. So when I moved back to Bakersfield after being away for several years, I decided to join Junior League. It's a great women's organization. There are women's clubs of Bakersfield. Service clubs are a fantastic way to meet other like-minded, ambitious people, but I just don't think you can do much of life as an island. You need to surround yourself with people who are going to feed your soul and feed your ambition. So go out and find your tribe and find multiple tribes. I think it's so important to, again, diversify and to find, I have a group of women who I absolutely love at my work, and they inspire me every day at work, to be more aggressive in my job and to be more assertive, and to reach for my professional goals. But then I have a group of women who I connect with at church, and they inspire me on, loving people better and to be a better mother and to be a better wife. So I think that there are different areas of our life, and it's important to go find those groups for each of them. And even if they're on social media, even if you're really busy, those connections are so important in your life. So surround yourself with ambitious people, because you're going to emulate a lot of the characteristics of the people you hang out with. And I think that's really important to remember. And it's just so great to be able to have somebody to bounce ideas off of. Hey, I have this crazy dream. What do you think about it? Find that group of people who you can say those things to and who are going to go, oh my gosh, there's this one time that I, took a chance and we quit our jobs and we opened up a business. And find people who have those kinds of ambitions as well, because they're going to feed your soul. All right. So step 4, take risks. Now, I think we kind of covered this a little bit when I said pick a fun ambition, but I put it as a separate section because for me, I think that those kinds of risks, especially when they're physical risks and physical accomplishments, do a lot for your body chemically. Exercise, it's proven to reduce your stress. It's proven to boost serotonin. It's great for your mental health. And I think especially when it's a physically challenging type of event or something like that, when you accomplish it or you push yourself to the limit physically, that gives you a boost of confidence that carries over into the rest of your life. So for me, taking a risk looks like signing up for a challenging run or a crazy long hike like I'm going to do this weekend. I also really enjoy high intensity interval training workouts because you push yourself to the max for a very short amount of time. And you know that you can do anything for 20 seconds or 40 seconds. But when you push yourself to the max, it gives you this sense of superpower that look what I just did. And I think that again, carries over to the rest of your life. I am a member or I have Peloton and I subscribe to that. And the trainers on that say a lot, how you do this is how you do everything. So when I'm pushing myself to the max, in my workouts or something like that, I'm remembering and repeating to myself, how you do this is how you do everything. So if I can show up for myself in this way, I know that when I'm faced with a really intimidating interview on air live and I have to ask really tough questions, I can remember back to that power that I felt when I pushed myself to the max. And if I can do that, I can do this. And I just think it's really important to, again, cross-train yourself like that. And it's like cross-training. Now, again, these risks don't have to be exercise related, but there are a lot of chemical benefits when they are because of that stress reduction and increased happiness. And in fact, studies show that taking risks and succeeding can motivate kids, because they study this in kids, allowing children to take risks, pushes them to seek further achievements, because it's kind of a high when you finally cross the finish line on a run or a goal that you set for yourself. You're going to want to feel that feeling again, and you're going to seek out the next one and the next one. And when those highs are coming from achievements and accomplishments and goals like that, what a great way to enjoy your life and increase your happiness. Okay, step 5. Actually, first, write down a way that you're going to take a risk to give yourself a serotonin boost. Just pick something, even if it was up on your ambitions list. Pick something for yourself right now. How can you push yourself and reap the rewards of that kind of serotonin boost? Okay, step 5. Fall down, and I'm singing this in my head, but I won't for your sake of your ears. Get back up again. I put a picture of Poppy on there because, well, I'm a mom of 3 young children, so I've seen Trolls one too many times. But I love the visualization of her getting beat down, eaten by flowers and animals and all kinds of random fantasy land things, and still singing her way through it with a smile, pushing her way on, and putting one foot in front of the other. because you are going to fail. You are going to fall. There are lots of times, like I said, that I've done this publicly on air. I've said words that are not words on air, that I've said gibberish words. Like I have asked questions and have people look at me going, what are you talking about? You don't even know what you're talking about. I've had this happen before. And every time I have, it has been mortifying. But again, I have remembered it a lot longer than the person I was talking to did, or any of the viewing public did. And I've learned from it. That's the most important thing with failure. If you can learn from it, then it's no longer a failure. It's just growth. And you're not going to ever grow if you don't push yourself past your limits. If you stay in your comfort zone, you're just going to stay comfortable. And if you want to reach new highs, you're going to have to take a leap sometimes. And I think it's so important to realize that failure is part of the process and it's not a bad thing. In fact, I went and looked up famous CEOs and billionaire businessmen and what they had to say about failure. And I don't know if anyone's ever heard of billionaire businessman Jack Ma, but he says failures were a huge part of his journey. In fact, he told a story in a Forbes article about applying along with 24 other people for a job at KFC when he was young. And he was the only one of the group of 24 people who didn't get that job. He and his cousin both applied for serving jobs, and his cousin got it and he didn't. And then he applied 10 times to Harvard and he didn't get in. But still, he said those lessons that he learned prepared him for the path he took as a CEO and now a billionaire businessman. Jeff Bezos, in fact, in that same article said, failure comes part and parcel with invention, and I would say ambition. It's not optional. It's not optional. Failure is not optional. So get it out of your head that you're going to go through your journey in your life without ever failing, because if you expect it, then it's not going to be quite as scary. Bezos said, we understand that and believe in failing early and iterating it until we get right. So again, those failures are what is going to propel you forward and make it possible to then grow and conquer that roadblock that knocked you down at one point, but now you can get back up again. A Forbes article in 2016 said that everybody should be fired at least once, because it's a sort of vaccination against fear. And I will say, I haven't been fired, but those public humiliations that I felt by making my mistakes publicly on air really felt like that. But I've realized that it's a vaccination against fear, that now I can go forward and I can take those chances, knowing what it feels like on the other side. And while it's uncomfortable, that it's not going to kill me. And I think that's really important. I think a lot of times we build up failure to be this huge monster that's going to take us down and that we're never going to be able to get back up again, and that we're just going to be paralyzed by it. But it's not. It's something that everybody goes through, especially successful people. So failing is a great way to push past those roadblocks and learn for next time, and again, grow. So I have also on here written down the times that I have failed, and then what I've learned from those. And I think that's really important to look back on your own failures and to own those as well as you own your ambitions, but own the parts of them that led to your growth. Own what you've learned from them. Because if you're afraid to own your failures, then you're not going to learn from them. So be okay with it. Know that everybody successful has failed at some point, and go back and dissect it and see what you can learn from it, and then take that into your next ambition and your next achievement. And it will take you very far, I think. So that is all I've prepared for you ladies. But I hope that it was a little bit inspiring or gave you something to think about. Again, I know that these practices are something that can be done on a daily basis. In fact, you can continue to track your progress every day to look at where you're going towards your goal. And I think it's such a great exercise that helps keep it front and center in our mind, keeps us focused on the end game and know what we're working for. And again, to own your ambition, because you are all amazing young women. I know that have a lot of ambition, and your ambition is going to do amazing things for our world, for your communities, your families. We need your ambition. We need you to own it and go out there and change the world. Does anyone have any questions for me? I see it. I don't know how this works. Casey?
they've been really good about just like taking turns asking, but we'll let Emily Zhao go first just because she can't have screen right now. So she's raising her hand digitally.
Okay. Hi, Emily.
Hello, thank you for the really inspiring talk as well as like your background story. So I was wondering, I guess like I also completely agree that failure is like an inevitable part of reaching success, and like it really like I guess in a sense raises you towards your final goal instead of like bringing you down. But I was wondering, like in those moments of failure, sometimes it's a little hard to wrap your head around the concept that this will bring you to success, and like sometimes like for example in my case, if I encounter failure, it can definitely take a toll on like I guess my mental well-being, and like lead to like a lot of negative thoughts. So I was wondering if you have any tips on how to, I guess, think more positively when you do encounter a failure and really get your mind around the fact that this is like inevitable, and you know you're going to have to face it someday.
I think that one great way to do it is to kind of have, I call them my life presets. So the things that I do, even when I don't feel like doing them, because I know they're going to make me feel my best. So on the days when I feel really crappy, I feel really defeated, I still have these life presets that I go by because I know that they're going to eventually be the medicine that gets me out of that mindset. So my life presets personally, I listen to my Bible every day on the way to work. I have a 45-minute commute. So I have a routine where I get in and I listen to my Bible, I listen to a corresponding podcast, and I spend time in prayer. So maybe for you that looks like meditation, maybe it looks like something different, maybe it looks like journaling. But I know that I am on my best, I'm going to be my best self when I begin my day like that. I also believe, again, like you heard, really heavily in exercise because of the chemical things it does in our body and brain. It's incredible. And it's stress relieving because if you've had a really rough day and you feel like beating yourself up, going there and just, whether it's boxing or it's running or it's writing or it's a HIIT workout, something like that, I believe that chemically, eventually that is going to affect my mood. Even if I don't feel like doing it, even if in the moment it doesn't fix it, I know that chemically it's giving my body, my brain, things that it needs to begin to overcome. And I also know that time away from my screen, just kind of spending more time away and able to reflect also helps me as well. What I like to do, not really like, but what I am inclined to do when I'm feeling really defeated or frustrated is to pick up my phone and scroll because it numbs me. And I know though, when I look back that it does not do me any good long-term, that I look back on the end of that and was like, why did I just waste 30 minutes of my day? There goes 30 minutes of my day I'll never get back. So I try to, as quickly as I can, remember these things, that doing these things will make me feel better, even when I just feel like numbing myself instead. So I try to remember and I write down these life presets that help me feel my best. And even when I don't feel like doing them, I try to do them. And that doesn't mean you don't give yourself a break and say, you know what, that was a really hard day. I'm going to go to bed early. I'm going to take a bath. I'm going to skip my workout. There's space for that. But I think that self-care looks like doing those things that you always know make you feel better, even when you don't feel like doing them.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I have a question, if you wouldn't mind. My name's Madeline too, by the way. But
Hi.
I have two things. First of all, I want to say I totally agree about the exercise thing. Like exercising definitely has a positive impact on your body. Like I run cross country, so that's like 6, 7, 8 miles a day, which is like super taxing when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But running out there and you get all that time to yourself, like 30, 40 minutes where you're just running and just thinking about life, like, and it makes you feel good because you come back and you're like, yeah, I worked out. Like I did and I burned calories, all that stuff. But my real question is like, you said this really early on and I was thinking about it. You said that you changed your majors, and like, that's one of my biggest fears, like that I pick something and then I have to change it because I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So was that like really scary, or was it just kind of like, oh, we're just going to change it?
It was absolutely terrifying. And like I said, I didn't really have another direction at the point, which was really terrifying because I talked my mom into letting me and helping me afford to go to this very expensive private college that honestly, I didn't have a great reason for attending as a theater school. And then eventually I changed to broadcast journalism. But I think the best way to tackle those kinds of fears is just to look them in the face and do them anyway. Even if you're scared, count to 3 and jump. And know that, again, even if you fail, even if you make the wrong choice, you can get back up again. I was still able to graduate in 3 years. And even if I had graduated and not used that specific degree, that doesn't mean it was a failure either. One degree does not stop you from going into a host of other industries. I have so many other career options that I could choose now, and I'm 35. I'll be 35 on Thursday. I'm not 35 yet. And I am still considering, what is my next career move? Where do I want to go? What do I want to do differently? And I think that knowing that you're not going to pigeonhole yourself just by picking one major really helps with that fear, because it's not the end all be all. And I think there's always room to change and grow in life.
Thank you.
Sorry. Oh,
You
I'm gonna piggyback on what she just said, if that's cool.
Yeah.
Whoever was talking. So I kind of have like the same thing as Madeline, which is so funny. I had like the same questions, and I wanted to say the exercise thing. Like, exercise is so important. I started running for anxiety, and it's helped me so much. So I completely agree with that. And Peloton, I love Peloton like so much. It's like my second love. It's the best. But when I just like, I think that's so interesting about the career thing, because I grew up watching 17 News at sunrise. Bakersfield, love Bakersfield. And then I would watch the Today Show after, and I love it so much. And I still love it. I've been watching it since I was like tiny. My mom would always have it on. But as I got older, my mom would always tell me, like, because I love to talk, she was like, you should like do that. And my dad would say, you should do like announcing, and you should be on the news. Like, you could do that, Sophia. And I thought about it, and then I fell in love with the idea of nursing. And I was like, that's so much more stable. But those were always my two things. Like, do I want to do nursing, or do I want to do like what you do, pretty much? And so now hearing how like you took such a risk, and it actually really paid off for you, is like kind of making me think about what I could do, because I'm like, oh, nursing is so stable. I'll always have a job, and I think I would love it. But at the same time, I'm like, that would be so cool to be on the news and like constantly have like such, just your day is constantly changing. And yeah, it's probably hard to have a family at the same time, but like it seems like it really worked out for you. So I just think that's really inspiring, because I have similar goals. So
Thank you. Well, I will say it is, and feel free to email me or find me on social media if you want to talk a little bit more about it. It is like I said, it is a grueling job, and it is a job that a lot of people do get out of when they decide to have families, or they decide they want to spend holidays with their families and stuff like that. Because my husband's a teacher, so I know what it's like to watch somebody with all of the holidays, and I am the person with mostly no holidays off. But I will say that it is possible. With very loyal bosses and accommodating a great team and being somewhere for a long time. But if you want to talk a little bit more about it, I would love to chat with you. I love talking about this, because I think there are things that I didn't know getting into it that I wish I had, but also I'm grateful that I am where I am, because I'm incredibly lucky.
thank you.
Julia?
Where would we be able to find your email to talk to you further about that?
Do you want me to just well, Casey could send it to you, but it's also my name. I'll tell you right now, it's Madeline, Madelyn Janssen. So you see on the screen, it's Jarrett Janssen, but my email is just Madeline Janssen at kget.com. So that's Madelyn Janssen at kget.
Thank you. I'm also interested in broadcast journalism.
Oh, awesome.
So.
I'd love to talk to you about it. Absolutely love to.
Skylar, you're next. Sorry.
It's okay. I just wanted to ask you, like, I really want to get into journalism as well, right? It's been a big dream of mine to get into writing journalism specifically. I also love broadcast, but I really want to write like news articles for like the New York Times. That's like a big dream of mine. So if I just wanted to ask, how were you able to get internships and connections to the job that you have today? And then also like maybe like what schools you recommend. I've been trying to find schools that have really good journalism programs. Like there's like really good ones in Berkeley and then like really good ones in Boston. But I do want to get closer to like the areas where there are really good journalism firms, like again like New York Times and like New York. So I don't necessarily know like which path is like kind of like good for that. And I know like you kind of like switched majors and everything, but how are you able to get internships, and then like what schools do you recommend?
So I took a pretty unconventional path to broadcast journalism, honestly. The school I went to was not, it's not a top journalism school by any means. Again, I didn't go into college knowing I wanted to do this. So you're already ahead of the game. Medill School of Journalism, ASU, Mizzou. I believe there's a pretty good program at Northridge, or at least there used to be. USC. There are quite a few all over the country, depending on where you want to go, and how long you want to spend in your program. There are so many great choices. I did not go that route again, so I can't really speak to that. But I do know that coming out of one of those prestigious journalism schools now, you would have so many opportunities to get a reporting job, in a fairly good market. Those are going to take you really far. I look at where people who go to those programs, how they begin and the things that they know versus what I had to learn the hard way on the job. And I am pretty jealous sometimes of the leg up that it gave them. So choose wisely on your school. I really would. Internships, just start applying. Honestly, right now there's a drought of people who want to work jobs in newsrooms, because I'm going to give you guys a little spoiler alert here. You don't make great money working in journalism, at least when you start out for several years. So there's a drought, and you could get in with a associate producer job, or an editing job. Get in a newsroom though. Even if I stacked tapes and I ran teleprompter when I was in between my, sophomore, junior, senior year. I just did these jobs, but I was able to then piggyback on with reporters and say, hey, can I come in early and go out with you on your shoot? And the answer was, yeah, of course you can. Now they did their stand up and they did their interviews. I'm going to shoot my own stand up, and I'm going to then take it back and write my own version of the story that I can put on my reel. Just ask as far as those kinds of internships and those jobs, and take advantage of those opportunities, because you may get a job that's not at all what you want to do in a newsroom, but you're going to be exposed to all parts of that newsroom, especially when it is a smaller newsroom, and you're going to be surprised at the opportunities that you get. I kind of think that was the whole of your question. I'm sorry, Skylar, if I kind of forgot part of it. Was there something else that you were asking?
No, that was perfect. I did have like a third question that I just wanted to ask. If I know that there's a lot of writing involved in journalism, which is kind of like one of the reasons why I really like it, but I've been kind of struggling to like improve on it a lot, and to just kind of like have like the motivation to write more, especially just after school, like when you do like a bunch of essays and everything.
Yeah,
it can be kind of like unencouraging. So do you have any advice for like ways that you can like improve on your writing and to just stay motivated in writing? Because it is one of my ambitions to like in my like for like a career thing, to just keep writing for like my life, but to like keep that ambition, what would your advice be?
I mean, I love writing as well. Honestly, that was probably my very earliest ambition in life, was to write. So I'm super lucky that I have this job. I would just say reading is as much a practice for writing as writing itself is. So read, because you learn styles, you learn all kinds of important things on reading news specifically. I think because news writing is so different than novel writing or anything like that, editorial writing. So read the types of things that you want to be able to eventually write yourself. And then just practice, and have people read it for you. Read it out loud. If you're interested in broadcast journalism, it's really important to write that script and then to read it out loud as well, because you're going to realize what it sounds like when it's, when it would be on TV versus a written news article is going to be a very different style of writing. But practice, practice, practice.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Just in regards to being ambitious in general, because like you said, I mean, I'm sure we're all very ambitious women, we're already here, but I tend to have my ambitions go so far into the future. It's like you were saying like, oh, in the next 3 months I want to, it's like I have no, like I know where I want to get at the end, but I don't know how to get there. And especially something so far off in the future is like, oh, I want an executive position. I want a leadership position in some kind of sustainability based entrepreneurial company. It's like, all right, what can I do now as a senior in high school to get me there? Do you have any advice on building your goals in that way?
Yeah. So, my first tip would be to work backwards. I think that's probably pretty obvious, but look where you want to go and look what would be the step before that. And then what would be the step before that, and just work backwards until you get to where you are today. Another tip would be to find people in similar positions or who have aspects of what you hope to accomplish, and ask them how they got there and what their path was. I think that's super, that's one of the amazing benefits of social media and how our world is so interconnected now, is you can read advice and we'll reply back to you. There are lots of entrepreneurship programs for high schoolers. I'm sure that you guys you've heard about them and been part of them before, but there are lots of things that maybe they aren't exactly what you want to do when you eventually graduate college and are an executive one day, but they can give you, a stepping stone or, a piece of the puzzle at least that will teach you one aspect. And don't be afraid to jump around and change directions and careers and try this thing and then go over here and try something completely different, but all together, it may kind of mushroom into what you want it to become.
I also have a question. So like, I remember that you mentioned sometimes we need to do things that like we not necessarily want to do at that moment, but we know it's like good for us. So like sometimes it could be mentally draining or physically draining for like an extended period of just doing that. So like, how would you recommend like one to deal with that burnout, and also to how to like prevent that burnout in the future? Or is burnout like productive in a way, or is burnout good for us in some sense, like it sparks creativity or something like that?
I don't think the burnout is what you're going for here. When I talk about always getting in my prayer time, I mean, you think of that prayer and meditation or journaling, those are relaxing things that are also caring for yourself. Rest days are just as important as your workout days, or, insert whatever that is for you. But for me, I know that going hard 7 days a week is not the way to reach my goals. Those days off are just as important as the days on. So to realize that as well, and to realize that if I miss a day, it's okay. It's what I do in the long run that's important. It's the pattern of behavior. It's not the day that I take off because I need a mental health day. I need to take a bubble bath. I need to rest and stretch instead of work out. If I'm making a pattern of those days more often than I'm making pattern of my productive days, or the days that I'm doing those life presets of mine, then I need to look at my life and go, okay, what's wrong here overall? There's something off balance. If I need more of these days off of the things that I know are good for me, if I need more of those than I do the days on, and that's becoming the pattern instead of what I want to be the pattern, then there's something off balance in the rest of my life, my career, my mental health, my relationships, something's wrong. And I need to take a bigger look at the whole picture and realize maybe I need to change direction somewhere in order to get back to a good spot where I can, again, go after my ambitions. I hope that helps, because I get that feeling of burnout. But again, it's important to give yourself those off days too, and those rest days. And I can't tell you how important sleep is. It took me a long time to realize it, but please sleep. Like, your body needs it, your brain needs it, every part of you needs it. It's so important. Sleep and rest and take care of your body as well.
I just wanted to real quick piggyback off of what you're saying, because I've been in like this talk that you're having it's really good, because I everything you're saying I have been doing for my entire life, but this year really trying to do it. You're a lot like my mom and my dad. You remind me of them so much. It's insane, because they had put me on schedule ever since I was really little, and you cannot stress enough how important rest days are. You can't just run for every day a week for 6 weeks, because I had friends who would go, oh, I'm going to do a 90-day no stop workout every single day, which is insane. And then eventually day 10, they're already burned out. They don't want to do anything. But the most important thing I stressed, and the most important thing that I struggled with as a teenager, was oh, I'm going to take a break day. And then the next day I'm I want to take another break day, and then another break day. And it was always my parents being you're never going to improve if you don't push yourself. You have to push yourself past your limits to do that. So
You're sure.
You're doing great. I don't know. You're great.
Thanks, Madeline. Awesome.
So I also had a question about like kind of related to how Madeline said of limits. So I've always had like a hard time distinguishing between like the edge of my comfort zone and like my like limit, I guess, like my final limit, where after I push past that, I like my body would probably break down. So like I'm always like asking myself like, oh, could I like do more? But then I don't know if it's like my final limit. So I was wondering like, how do I distinguish between like if this is the edge of my comfort zone or if it's like my limit where it's unhealthy to go past it?
I think it depends on what you're talking about. In a workout, I feel pretty confident in my physical health that I can push myself until I fail. Like I push myself to failure in workout. But if you're talking about going with no sleep and, pushing yourself to stay up, all night for certain things, that's not a healthy limit. It depends on what limits you're pushing yourself past. If I'm pushing myself past something where I know like I'm physically safe, I'm mentally and emotionally safe, then that's okay. But if it's in an unhealthy way, then that's not good. So I think it really depends. And I know that it can be kind of ambiguous, especially with studies and schoolwork and that kind of thing, and overloading your plate as far as commitments, because I've definitely done that as well. But I've realized if I overload my plate with commitments to where if I'm on a regular basis feeling like I cannot fulfill my commitments, then I know that I've pushed too far past my limits. And like, I want to be busy and I want to have a full life and I want to be a really helpful member of society and be on all these boards and these committees and volunteer at my kids' school, but also volunteer at this and fulfill all my job requirements as well. But if I'm finding that on a consistent basis, I feel like I cannot meet those commitments wholeheartedly and with all of my effort behind it, then I'm not giving my 100% or more than 100% to those things, then I've pushed too far. Because what good is it signing up for all these commitments if I cannot give 100% to them? I need to cut something out. So I think you'll know when it's too much. And, as women, I think we're really prone to overcommit, but don't learn that lesson the hard way like I did. I've definitely overcommitted like way too many times and learned that lesson over and over again. You're going to learn it a few times the hard way, I think, just because you are ambitious women, but realize that if you're not able to give 100% to everything that you're doing, then something needs to give, and that you are doing a favor to those organizations or to yourself or to your goals if you cut something back. Because if you can't give 100% to it, then it's not worth it. Then that committee could find a different volunteer who could give 100%. You're doing yourself a favor, you're doing them a favor if you are honest with yourself in that way.
So,
You're welcome.
So I have a quick question. So I have some trouble like juggling around with things that I want to do and things that I prioritize. And it wouldn't have been easy for you to juggle both your family and your own goals. So I was wondering if you had some tips on how to juggle those and manage our time with your priorities.
Okay, so this is the metaphor that I used last time, and it's not my metaphor. It's somebody else's, and I can't remember whose metaphor it is right now. I wish I could, but I didn't like prepare it as part of my presentation. Casey might know who it's attributed to.
Forget, but it's great. So just, it's fine. Keep going, because I love what you're about to say, but I don't remember her name either.
Especially as like a working mom. And it was a working mom. I believe it was an author. It's coming back to me now. The key to juggling work priorities and family priorities, or insert your priorities here, is knowing that some of those balls are glass and some are plastic. And that at some point you're going to drop a ball, but you have to decide if this is a glass family bowl and a plastic work ball. Okay, it's okay to drop that plastic work ball to catch this glass plastic ball, or this glass family ball. Sorry. Know that your ball, some of them are plastic, some are glass. Some you're going to have to drop something if you're juggling a lot of things. But know the things to drop and the things to catch. So it does come down to priorities, but being there every day at school pickup, that's probably a plastic ball. I can get somebody else to do that. Missing out on the biggest day of news that we've had all year because of a huge breaking news and we're short staffed and they need me in there, that's a glass ball. So I'm going to have to drop a plastic family ball for that one. But vice versa, missing out on my kids' performance in school, that's glass. I'm not going to do that for a plastic work ball. So just learn to distinguish glass versus plastic.
You mentioned sorry.
I was just going to say, someone just pointed out in the chat, that was author Nora Roberts.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I had an additional question based on surrounding yourself with ambitious people. Mm-hmm. So I know that a lot of us teens can probably relate that it's kind of hard to find those people at school when you feel like you're in constant competition with people and there's just like not the best vibes overall. But what are your tips towards finding people who support you and uplift you in life?
I think I've struggled with this as well because I have a really competitive nature, but I think you're going to find them all kinds of places, whether it's on social media, whether it's in a school club, a service club, it's something through a different organization you're part of, like your church or just your community as a whole. I would say, again, service clubs and things that align with your values. You're going to find people who share those as well, and then will inspire you along the way. But it's also just realizing that not everybody, I know that in a way, everybody who's going after something similar is your competition, but it's learning to not see them as the enemy necessarily, learning to see them as building you up, taking what inspiration you can from them, learning from them, and not putting yourself against them, not pitting yourself against them. Stay in your own lane. Quit looking, don't always be looking at, well, how far are they going? How fast are they going? What have they accomplished? I think you can learn from those people, but stay in your own lane at the same time and stay focused on your path and know that somebody else accomplishing and achieving their own goals isn't going to stop you from accomplishing and achieving your own goals. I have to tell myself that a lot because I'm in a really competitive industry and I have a very competitive nature, and I get jealous easily of coworkers who get the stories that I think I should have gotten or something like that, something similar, or the award or something like that. But I have to remind myself, stay in your own lane. What am I focused on right now? Did I go after that story? Is that my beat? Is that my whatever? No, it's not. This is my lane. I'm going to stay in my own lane and succeed in my path instead. It's difficult because I know that catty feeling exists. And it's something you just have to kind of either maybe change organizations. It's not everywhere though, I'll tell you. And a lot of times it's in our own head more than it is real as well.
I had 2 questions. So first I was wondering, you mentioned about writing or reading and writing at the same time. So I was wondering if you had any like book suggestions that you would suggest us to read that maybe can help us with like nurturing that ambitious mindset, but like also like helping us with our mindset. And the second question was, actually I'll ask that question first.
Oh gosh, so like actual like specific books, like self-help, not self-help, but you know what I mean. I don't read. Hold on, let me get my book stack here, see what I've got in it. This is just the stack of books by my bed, but I don't read a ton of those types of books. I try to alternate. I love reading fiction, honestly. When I talk about improving your writing by reading, I'm talking about reading news stories. So for a specific purpose of learning style. This is the Dragon in the Sock Drawer. That's not on my list, actually. Trying to think. No, I'm sorry. I don't really, a lot of those don't come to mind, but I would say find people who have written books on what you want to learn about. The internet's an amazing place for that kind of stuff. I've been trying to learn a lot more about finances, because I am not good at that. And it gives me a ton of anxiety to think about my finances. So I've been searching out books on Audible for my drive, and just on the internet as well, to find books that I can order and learn a little bit more from. But I mean, there's a wealth of knowledge out there. Find something specific to what it is you want to learn about. Sorry, Natalie, I don't have a better answer for you.
Oh, no, it's okay. And the second question that I had was, in college, you must have had like a lot of activities to like fill up your days. So how did you like balance your classes with your extracurriculars? Because I know it's like a big jump from high school to college. So how did you manage all of that?
Honestly, I didn't have a ton of extracurriculars in college. I had a goal in mind. I told my mom I would graduate in 3 years if I could go to this college. So my first priority was somehow graduate in 3 years. And that meant a lot of classes, a really full load. And so that was my first priority. After that came a job. So I had a job all through college. So that was my second priority. And it's just lining up your priorities. You know the thing that is most important, write that down. You can't let that fall. That's your glass ball. So graduating in 3 years, that meant those classes, that full load, that had to happen. There was nothing that could come in the way of that. And then after that, it was my job, because I got to eat. And then after that, it was my internships and my part-time jobs in newsrooms, because those were going to give me the experience once I graduated to actually get a job and go out into the workforce. And then after that came friends and a social life. And, I look back at some people who had a really amazing full college experience with a lot more extracurriculars than I do. And I'm like, gosh, that would have been great. It really would have. But sometimes you can't have all of that at the same time as accomplishing your top priorities. And it's being okay with it. And honestly, I am okay with it looking back. I don't like to tell women that they can't have it all, but I think my good friend told me the key is that you can have it all, but you maybe can't have it all at the same time. And that's okay too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Alrighty. We are reaching the end of our hour here. I don't know how much time you have, Maddie. Is there any other last questions anyone had? Alexia has one.
Just real quick, talking about how you can't have it all, and well, you can, but at different times, and just that general concept. I know you started a family and did your job and your business, which is very difficult, because I've kind of grown up hearing like, oh, you can, hearing the stories of like, oh, if you put too much time into your job, then you abandon your family and that falls through, or you can stay home and be the family person you want to be, but then when you have to go back into the workforce at 40 years old, when you haven't worked since you were 20, and just trying to balance that. And is it possible that you can actually do both?
It absolutely is. It just depends on what you want. Like my sister decided to have kids and decided she wanted to stay home with them full time. And when they are all of school age, then she will continue her career in teaching. It depends on what you want. Like, what do you want? And if you want to be a working mom, like fantastic. I think the workforce needs more of us, because the workforce is not going to be able to accommodate women and working moms if there are not working moms in the workforce showing them the accommodations and the input that we have, because we have amazing things to add to our industries. They need our viewpoints. They need to hear from us, but it depends on what you want. Don't let what someone else wants or says is possible determine your path in life. Juggling is hard, but again, it's all about glass and plastic. I had a lot of years where I was incredibly sleep deprived, raising 3 little kids because they're all really close in age. And I work a shift where I wake up at 3 a.m. for work. Like, it was rough. And there are years like that, but it's true with parenting, but I think it goes for so much of life that the days are long, but the years are short. So those really hard periods that you're in, sometimes they look really long and they feel really, really long while you're in them. But looking back, if you can push through, if it's worth it to you, then you're going to be grateful that you did. But yeah, juggling, it's all about priorities. It's about finding your support staff, your village, I ascribe to it takes a village to raise a child, and I am so grateful for my village, the people who I can call to pick up my kids for me, to babysit. And then I've got a village at work who can fill in for me. You know, I have them everywhere. And I think it's really important to rely on support and be okay with asking for help. I think a lot of people have trouble asking for help and accepting it, but it is a superpower. Like being okay with asking for help, do it. Like, oh my gosh, I think it's a powerful thing to say I need help, because it makes us feel like we're giving up our power. So I think embrace that and ask for the help that you need. And I'm okay if anyone has any other questions. I'm really not in a hurry for anything, but I know you all probably have another session to get to.
Actually, after this, we're just talking about goals. So if anyone does have a question, they can ask you. But just to add on to your question, Alexia, if you're ever, I think you all should just follow Maddie on Instagram. One half of it's the news, so it keeps you updated. That's great. And the other half, I actually don't want kids, just personally, but I think it's very inspiring to watch Maddie's stories, because I think there is a lot of emphasis for women to like choose one, or you can't do both, or, you know. And the other day she posted with her son on the news, and it was like this perfect, you know, marriage of like, oh, I've got my son right here, but I'm also working my job. And it's very inspiring. Maybe you don't want kids, maybe you do, but in general, it's inspiring to see such an accomplished woman like doing it all. Cause like you've got that post, and then right after that, she was like, and I just ran 10 miles today. Like it's very, very inspiring. So I like to film my social media with all inspiring people, not like people that I'm going to reflect in on myself and feel bad about myself. So, you know, make your tribe. That's what Maddie was saying. I follow her on social media because every morning when I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have a great day. So I think there's something in that. That's really awesome.
Thank you.
Of course. Miss Cayenne has a question.
Yeah, I was just actually about to ask about like choosing between your career and having a family. And I feel like that's something that a lot of women, especially in this time, have to feel like they have to choose. And I just think it's really inspiring how you have both. But personally for me, it's like kind of hard because the career path that I want to go towards is something like, because I want to become FBI agent, I want to work in the federal government. And that's something that's kind of like hard to balance both. So I kind of feel like I have to choose. Do you have any advice for something like that?
I don't think you have to choose, first of all. I will just give you an example, and then I'll talk a little bit about it. But I met this, she was our former district attorney. Lisa Green was her name. And she was our district attorney, our county's chief prosecutor. And her husband was also a lawyer. And they had 3 amazing kids. And she did not take off time. She took off her maternity leave, and I'm sure she took off time, but she did not leave the workforce in the midst of her career path, which again is an option. I think people used to have this feeling that if I leave the workforce, how am I ever going to get back in? That is very passe now. You can absolutely take breaks, and people are doing it more and more in their lives, taking a couple years break or a couple months break, and then getting back in and jumping back in. That's absolutely possible now. But Lisa Green was my inspiration to see her juggle this incredibly high-powered job and a marriage and family and raising her kids. Like it gives me goosebumps to talk about all over again. And there are women everywhere who have incredibly powerful, demanding jobs and are able to do it. But it's finding your partner who is going to help you along the way, who is going to feel that your dreams are as important as their dreams. And it's finding that village and that tribe that's going to be there to back you up and help you out on your path. I really don't think that you have to choose one or the other. I think that it is absolutely possible to have a family and have a successful, even demanding career. And again, sometimes you have to choose your time in your career where this is a time of growth, this is a time of ambition, this is a time of nonstop, and I'm not going to have a family right now. I have a lot of friends in the news industry who waited till they were a lot older to have their families because of that, because they spent their earliest years focusing on their career only, and they advanced, and grabbed every single opportunity, where when I was having my kids and I had to let a lot of opportunities slide. I'm not going to lie. I kept on my path, but I had to pull back a little bit, because at that time, my 3 young kids meant that I could not work all of the overtime, take all of the weekend breaking news stories. I couldn't. And I realized it, and that was okay, because it was just a time period. And now my kids are in school, and I have much more opportunity and leeway to go ahead and work late if I need to. If it's important to my career and I want that opportunity, I can take it now. So when I said you can have it all, but maybe not at the same time, you can continue on that career path and just kind of know your seasons that you're in, and just kind of plan accordingly.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I just had a fun question. Who's your favorite Peloton instructor?
Allie Love.
Of course. Oh my gosh. Everyone loves her.
I love her. She's fantastic.
Do you do the bike? No, she's amazing. Do you do the bike more? You don't do the tread?
I have a bike, and then I do the so Peloton app, by the way, it's a really great deal right now if anyone wants to look into it for their own physical health. And it's cheap if you only have the app and not the bike itself. But I love doing their outdoor runs and walks, and their stretches are fantastic. So I do a lot from the app, but I don't have a tread. I have just the bike.
Yeah, the outdoor runs are really good.
Yeah, they're good because they're, they push you. Whereas, I love to go for a run with just like straight blasting my music and enjoy that as well. But every now and then it's good to have that instructor kind of push you and tell you, no, you're going to sprint now. You're going to keep this pace. Yeah. So it's a good challenge.
I wouldn't if I didn't have them. I would just be like, This is fine. I can get a job. Yeah. So it's an amazing app.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a more serious question. Sorry to break that up, but when it comes to having a very public job where there's constant competition, how are you able to effectively deal with feedback and criticism?
I think you just have to realize the criticism that matters and the criticism that doesn't. Yeah, and it's just deciphering that. And you don't read all your critics. We get nasty emails and social media comments and stuff like that. But when it's coming from somebody I trust and I want their advice, then I'm going to know that criticism is worthwhile. But when it's coming from a random viewer who decided it was worth it to go find my email and tell me what they don't like about me, my physical appearance or the way I talk, or, they just think that I'm a terrible person. It's just, I've learned to block that through the years. It's kind of salacious gossip to want to go read it and say, "Ooh, what did they say about me now? What am I going to say back?" But I've realized that it's not worth my mental health to go read those things anymore. So yeah, just know the people that you want your criticism from, when it's going to be constructive criticism or something that's going to affect you in a positive way, and the ones that aren't.
Do we have any other questions? Oh. Yes, I see a hand raised. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you really like fitness, and I know you're also busy with your family and your job. So how have you been able to kind of fit in your workouts around that kind of schedule?
I just, I know that it's important for me to be able to show up for my family and my life and my physical health, to have that time in my day to work out. And maybe when I had like 3 young kids who were 0, 1, and 2, and I was still working, all I did was a 20-minute workout a day. And I did it maybe 4 days a week, but it was 20 minutes. It was intense, but that was it. I can fit in 20 minutes a day. I waste 20 minutes a day or more doing who knows what. And so, sometimes you don't have time for an hour and a half long workout or an hour long workout. But 20 minutes of intense work 4 times a week, that's going to get you there to what the physical benefits are, I think. And I think that those physical benefits are important for me to be able to be my best for my kids, to be less stressed, to be, happier, calmer, to be better at my job. They help with my sleep. I sleep better. I eat better. I do everything better when I have those. So I know that they're important, but they don't have to be long either. They don't have to take up a ton of my day. So 20 minutes, 4 times a day. So that's an hour, 20 minutes. Yeah, I can spare that per week. Any more questions?
Anyone else?
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say thank you for your advice and happy early birthday.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you all so much for all the kind questions and comments, and just being so engaging and talking with me. I enjoyed it so much. I hope that you got a little bit of benefit out of it.
I feel like a whole lot of benefit. I don't think we touched on this, but Maddie actually participated in the Distinguished Young Women program. So Eunice, I'm going to make you ask your final question again, because I just love this question.
So what was your most memorable part in your Distinguished Young Women journey?
Trying to think. Well, okay. Well, honestly, my most memorable is not going to be inspirational at all. I dislocated my kneecap on stage and had to crawl off and be carried back to the dressing room. So that would be my most memorable.
But look at what you're driving now. So like, that's a great, like, just because, you know, like if you don't make it in one category, that doesn't mean you're not going to grow up to be like the most amazing.
That is okay. Girls, I am here to tell you that failure is an okay thing because I've done it. Yeah, I had to be carried back to the dressing room and I was on crutches for several days after. It was great, but it was still a great positive experience. And I still participate, obviously. I MC the local competition every year. I usually MC the state competition. So that's honestly when I'm talking about like impactful in my life, I love how when I moved back years later, the program directors reached out to me and asked me to be a part of it, and that I still felt like part of a DYW family, even though it had been years since I'd been part of the program. They pulled me back in and I still felt like part of the family. And I love every year getting to see a new class of these, amazing, ambitious, impactful young women. So thank you for being a part of it and for inspiring me.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'm so glad you got to come and chat with us. I think everyone, we don't have any more questions. I don't want to cut anybody off, but I think we are good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Maddie. I'm so happy. That was a great workshop. And yeah, if you guys need to get in touch with Maddie, I did put her email in the chat, and then I will post this chat or this workshop online later if anyone wants to rewatch it for little knowledge nuggets, because it's full of them.
Thank you so much. Thank you all, ladies. I appreciate it, and good luck. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. All right, everyone. Well, thank you. Thank you. I think that was a fantastic workshop. How are we feeling? I would like to talk about goals a little bit, but like, do we need to go to the bathroom? Or like how, yeah, okay. It's 11:18. Let's say at 11:25, we'll all be back on. Everyone go get, fill up your water and go to the bathroom. Okay. I will see you in just a little bit.